The German chapter at first formed for its own purposes. They wanted to be able to collect donations that were tax deductible in their country and do projects that were local to themselves, and be able to hold themselves out and say, hey, we're from Wikimedia Germany, we would like to partner with you as a museum and see what we can do about digitizing collections, or we would like to hold events, and it's really hard to do that when you say, I'm just somebody who edits this website. So now there are 26 of them around the world. Only one of the chapters is in the United States, New York City. We have several New York City chapter Wikipedias around here, which is great. And they've done a lot of work with institutions like the Brooklyn Museum, who held events like Wikipedia Loves Art. We hope to have one in DC in the future, but at the moment we're still at the stages of sitting around and drinking and eating pizza and talking about what we might do if we were a chapter. Although we've still held several events, including this, which is really great. The chapters exist to further Wikimedia projects through local action, including collaboration with local institutions. It's a lot easier to do that if you were an organization. Somebody have their hand up?
What's with Canada and green?
Aha! So you can cheat and see my next slides. So here's a lovely map of chapters existing and planned. The dark blue ones are the ones that exist already, and I think India should be dark blue now, but this map is a couple weeks old. So the green ones are the ones that people are just talking about.
Oh, the green ones are theoretically planning, and the light blue ones are the talking about.
Yeah, the green ones are people talking about seriously having regular meetups, are almost there, we expect them to come. The blue ones, people are meeting up and they're talking about it, but they're not quite sure yet. So.
One of the green ones that are arguing about a sub-region of that should be a separate chapter.
That's a whole other kettle of fish. So, something that people don't really think about, and because mostly it isn't visible, is the software revision. The MediaWiki software, which everybody knows and loves, or knows and tolerates, was created in 2003, and has been continually revised ever since. Some people may have noticed that the usability project put a whole new skin on it so that it's supposedly easier to use. I really hope that that's true because people worked really hard on it. But it was first built on existing software called UseMod. One thing people really hated about it was that you had to camel case links. So if you see that those two words are squished together because the software would not take a space for a link, would not take punctuation, would not take many things. People hated that. So that no longer existed anymore. There were many minimal features, so many people created new features in MediaWiki to better enable creating a wiki encyclopedia, including things like access levels or different ways of inputting information, different backend structures that allowed people to create things like extensions to make it do custom things and really neat things, and now it's so complicated almost nobody knows everything that it does. This was all done by volunteers first off. It was built entirely by volunteers for many years, and now there are some staff hired by Wikimedia and working in other organizations that develop it as well. Many people write extensions, such as some people mentioned in their introductions, and they're used on many wikis. Some of them aren't even used on Wikimedia. The one thing that people often regret is the unfortunate name. People confuse the software MediaWiki and the Foundation Wikimedia all the time, although it does spark conversation in the IRC channel and has been quiet for several hours, so maybe we should be a little grateful. One of the next moments in Wikipedia is the Siegenthaler incident. How many of you were reading or using Wikipedia in 2005 and remember this happening? Great. So about half the room. So to get it out of the way, John Siegenthaler Sr. did not kill Robert or John F. Kennedy, but Wikipedia's article on him said that he did for several months in 2005. Fortunately, John Siegenthaler is a renowned journalist and had a way to spread information and say, no, I did not do this. This thing on this website is false. Many people who are not so lucky do not have such a platform, so perhaps it was fortunate that just as we were entering a period of rapid growth, somebody with a high-profile platform was able to say this and expose it to the public. It brought Wikipedia and its flaws into public awareness. As people figured out what exactly happened, who had done this, what the processes were that allowed this sort of thing to happen, people learned a little bit more about Wikipedia. And Wikipedia realized that it wasn't just this little website that nobody knew about anymore. It was something that affected the world outside it. It was really part of the media landscape. That was the end of the press honeymoon. Almost no reporters ever said anything about Wikipedia without mentioning this incident, even about 6 years later. On the other hand, it came right before a period of huge growth. I don't know if you can see the beginning of the little curve up there is mid-2005, which is right around here. So perhaps it was a boost in awareness. It was when the Biographies of Living Persons policy was formed that created a little more stringent guidelines for being able to do things about the biographies of living persons, where the Wikipedia article on them might actually affect their lives. Then there was the first Wikimania, which happened in 2005 in Frankfurt, Germany. Of course, it's the Germans again, the history of Wikipedia. I should probably be speaking this in German.
We have simultaneous translation.
So there has been a conference every year since, and hundreds of people attend. Our last one was in Gdansk, Poland, which we just got back from last summer. One of the reasons this is really funny is because one of the longest running edit wars in Wikipedia history was whether to name the article on the city Gdansk or Danzig. The compromise involves knowing what period of history you're talking about when you're talking about the city, which is a very typical solution. The 2012 location is not decided yet, and there are some people who are talking about maybe having it here. And I think that if you are interested in that and would like to help make that happen, you should talk to James Hare, who is sitting in the back, because we can assemble a team to make a bid.
February 6th.
We have until February 6th to make our final decision on that, so it really depends on people contacting you. Yeah. So, whoa, they're real people. Before, people had just, on mailing lists on the wiki on IRC. First time any of these people had ever met. The bearded guy right in front is Brian Vibber, who was our lead developer and CTO for a long time. So. One more is relicensing. Wikipedia started before Creative Commons was ever formed, and we used the GFDL, which is the GNU Free Documentation License, because we started as a kind of spiritual successor to GNUpedia, which is an idea of Richard Stallman's to have an encyclopedia that was freely available and freely copyable all over the world. They didn't make it happen, and we did. So the licenses were almost the same, but not quite. There are a couple things about attribution, the way you have to copy the license that were a little different. So it was really frustrating to be using this license that nobody had adopted. Creative Commons had come along a couple years later, and everybody was using their licenses because they were easier to understand and they were easier to share. And so we had all this content that was similar, but we couldn't share it. So one thing that happened is we talked to the Free Software Foundation, which had the GNU Free Documentation License, and we talked to Creative Commons and said, what has to change about these licenses? What kind of compromises do we have to make it acceptable to change the license so that we can be compatible with all this Creative Commons content? So when we did that, we changed to the Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license, and now many other organizations who are using either just attribution or attribution share-alike, we can take material from them, and we can share between things that are also share-alike. And now we're compatible with a lot more of the content on the internet, which is sort of what this whole free licensing thing is all about. And finally, the 10th thing is 10 years on the web. Happy birthday, Wikipedia. Thank you for coming. Please carry our message forward.
We don't have time for questions right now, so you can talk to Kat during the break.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, patriotic Americans, and those who are not. My name is James Hare. I have been a Washington, D.C. resident kind of since August of 2010. And I am interested in bringing the International Wikipedia Conference Wikimania to Washington, D.C. for the year 2012. Now, do I have access to a computer which I could use to bring up some visuals?
You just got it. Work right.
Well, no, I was asking if I could just borrow it to bring up.
The problem is I have a computer to run the Friday one.
Oh, okay.
It's not like
It's not important.
if you want, I can just plug it back on that.
Well, my point is that the last time Wikimania was held in the United States was in the year 2006 in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I don't know what this is.
Whatever you like.
And if you remember anything about the year 2006, it was 5 years ago or so.
If you remember anything, you probably weren't there. No, that's
2012 or 2013, either of
So,
those.
so I put this up for like.